On today's episode of the Cryptoverse, we will do another update. Following on from yesterday's Bitcoin technical analysis, that'll be 3 days in a row, we will briefly touch on a very interesting situation that's playing out on the Steem blockchain right now. This is a situation I personally could really use your help with. And the main story for today is an emergency security issue that has occurred right in the very core of most modern computer processing hardware. This is a big one. And today's episode is brought to you by Ledger, the manufacturer of hardware wallets, and this is directly relevant to today's episode. I personally use this, the Ledger Nano S hardware wallet, that ensures that my cryptocurrency is safe from the kinds of security breaches that we're going to talk about on today's show. So check out the link in the video description and get yourself a Ledger Nano S today. Hi there guys, welcome to the latest episode of the Cryptoverse, your regular dose of news and commentary on Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies and blockchains. I'm your host, Chris Coney. So let's go with this market roundup little mini thing that I'm doing these days. So Bitcoin technical analysis. This is the Bitfinex price, this is Bitcoin against the US dollar. Following on from yesterday's analysis, what do we know? We are still testing the 38% Fibonacci level and it is holding. So that's $14,376. See, yesterday we didn't even actually touch it in the end. I've zoomed right in today. We broke out 2 days ago on the 2nd. We held above and tested, and today we are testing again. This is what we like to see. There's a little bit of a candle tail dangling below the level. However, the price is currently slightly above it. So again, not a fully formed candle today. So it may still, break back down again, but as we look at it right now, that level is holding. So nice tight trading range today and yesterday. The candle sizes, the actual heights of them both, and the heads and the tails, they're nice and tight compared to these previous ones, which are quite large by comparison. So this is good to see because it means the market is taking its time to decide which way it wants to go. What we don't want to see are major crashes and big slaps back up again, because that means that kind of volatility means that there isn't much consensus around how much of a Bitcoin is worth. Whereas when you see tighter ranges like this, it means there's a much greater balance between buyers and sellers. That is a good thing, right? So when we break out, like we did back here 2 days ago, we broke out of the 38% level, we broke above 14,376, right? It's nice to take a pause after a breakout and then do a very civilized test of the price to make sure it is support and it's going to hold. Remember, like hitting your elbow on the ice to see if it's solid enough to stand on. And we always like to do this after we break above it to make sure we can stand on this level and it's solid in order to make a decisive move up afterwards. Okay, so that's why we like to do that. Then, well, that's what I'm seeing on the charts anyway. Then in terms of winners and losers today, we've got Tron up here and up 97% on the day. And NEM up 45% on the day. And we've got two biggest losers, Bitcoin Cash down 15% and Byteball down 9.5%. Now, here we've got Ripple as the number 2 coin by market cap. That's based on coins in circulation. You can see that I've on OCFX.com, sorry, it's onchainfx.com. The market cap column is sorted by market cap right now, but this is market cap based on the current number of coins in circulation. So that's current number of coins in circulation multiplied by today's price equals current market cap. However, the reason I use this onchainfx.com site is they have this other market cap measure. They call it Y2050, which is the implied market cap at the year 2050 once all the coins have been issued, right? Now you can click on this header and it will sort it by the implied market cap. And if we do it that way, Ripple's the number 2 coin by market cap based on today's circulation numbers. However, when we sort it by implied market cap, meaning the price of a Ripple token today multiplied by how many actual Ripple tokens will exist in total, that makes Ripple the number 1 coin by market cap overall. Nearly $365 billion versus Bitcoin's 312, nearly 313 billion after all coins have been issued. So this is very interesting. Whichever way you slice it, Ripple is really rippling through the top 100 coins right here and is solidified in the top 100. It's been on a massive tear. I've never bought any Ripple, never intend to buy any. Need to do some more research on it because there's still a lack of clarity around what the hell does the token do, right? I've heard a lot of people, including other YouTubers, say, well, you can use the Ripple network without using the Ripple token, but no one seems to be able to nail down the detail of exactly why that is. And exactly how can you use the Ripple network without the Ripple token? So what's the Ripple token for? That is getting on my nerves. I really want to get down to the detail for myself and answer that question once and for all. The other thing I noticed today is that Dash has been elbowed right out of the top 10 by Tron because it's of Tron's massive price increase. It's elbowed Dash down to 11th, which is not a place Dash is used to. So it's been bumped out of the top 10 with some serious competition. In terms of this here Tron, which is now 10th by market cap and has rocketed nearly 100% today, Tron is a Chinese smart contract platform for developing decentralized applications, right? Just like Ethereum or EOS or Cardano or whatever, right? And it's a self-proclaimed Web 4.0 technology. That's what it says right there. The next era of Web 4.0. And according to their site, they're claiming to build a system, it's in here, there it is. They're claiming to build a system to, well, it builds a system that allows people to distribute digital content and entertainment for free using a blockchain and using decentralized storage technology, right? So they're two things we're familiar with. Now, further to that though, they also say here, the orange bit that I've highlighted, they say that the first Tron compatible app will be Piwu. Is that how you say it? It's probably a Chinese word, right? Piwu, whichever it is. So Piwu is this thing. It's PEIWO.CN, Chinese, right? And Piwu currently, apparently, it has 10 million users already. So Tron better have a sufficient capacity to handle all of those users, is all I can say. So if you want to check out, it's tron.network is the main site. I haven't done a deep dive into this, but when you see a coin going up 100%, you kind of want to do a little bit of a digging into it to say, what on earth is this thing, right? That's usually the time when it gets my attention. So that's all for the market roundup. Let's move on to where are we going here? I've got two flipping Piwus open. Anyway, the Steem drama situation. I really wanted to talk about the Steem blockchain today, but this security breach we're going to get into in the main story is so important that I've got to focus on that kind of immediately, right? But just briefly, there is something very interesting happening on the Steem blockchain right now. A very interesting experiment is playing out. It's an experiment on basically putting the community-powered delegated proof-of-stake system through the ringer, basically, to see how it handles a crisis. One user, this person, if we click through to their profile here, is posting 10 times a day, nearly, and they're being upvoted by a couple of whales, right? Resulting in a large portion of the Steem reward pool being directed to this one person. And there's a lot of people in the Steem community that are disgruntled about this because they think this is an abuse of the reward pool. I'm of that opinion. No one needs to post 10 times a day, right? This is intentionally being broken up into individual posts in order to rape the reward pool, right? I have personal discipline that I only post once per day on Steem. In fact, when DTube launched, I noticed that we were posting the YouTube version of the Cryptoverse on Steem and then posting the DTube version as well. And that created 2 posts. And I was getting basically rewarded twice for the same bit of work. So once I realized that was happening, I stopped doing that. And now I only post a DTube. So it only shows it once on the Steem blockchain. Because yes, self-interest. Yes, I want to make money, but I don't want to do that at the expense of the community, right? Because if you destroy the community, you destroy your source of income. So it has to be win-win. And I don't believe what this person is doing is win-win. I just think they're making so much money out of it. They don't really care if it only happens in the short term. By then they'll be out and they'll have made a ton of money. So this has ensued in a war of downvotes that I have become tangled in. However, I'm more than willing to take a hit on my personal Steem rewards if it stops one individual from clearly abusing the system and upsetting the wider community. Right? It's the community that is rewarding us, right? So if we erode that, if we destroy that, that is like killing the goose that lays the golden egg. And as far as I can tell, a number of good whales have come to my aid and saved a couple of my posts from going into a black hole. So you see these two here, my year in review and the Mike Maloney interview. They were much higher than this, having many, many votes, but they've been flagged by this person who's abusing the reward pool because I'm standing up against the abuse. And now there's a retaliation going on to, reduce my Steem rewards and my power in the community. So I'll endeavor to go into more detail on this situation in a future video. But for now, if you're not already following me on Steem, please do so. It's at Marketing Monk. At Marketing Monk. I want you to follow me on Steem because your upvotes will help prevent this retaliation against my objection to the abusive behavior. So I'd appreciate that very much. Now on to the main story for today. This emergency security breach that affects everyone. Well, almost everyone, 99% of people. This is an emergency announcement, right? I'll start with the solution. Store your cryptocurrency holdings in a hardware wallet. That's the bottom line. And that's the reason why Ledger, I chose them as the sponsor for today, because it's directly relevant to this story, right? If you have your funds in a Ledger wallet like I do, then you can hear about this news and you can respond to these kind of security breaches with the emotion of kind of curiosity, right? Like, this is interesting, rather than panic, right? Because no matter how severe the security breach is, my money is safe in my Ledger Nano S, right? So that's my genuine response. I go, oh, this is interesting from a technical point of view, but the fear of losing money never enters my mind because it's in a hardware wallet. So that's the reason to do it before you hear about these security issues. Prevention is always better than cure. What's curious to me is that none of the major players like Microsoft, here's the Microsoft homepage, here's the Intel homepage, and here's the AMD homepage. None of these three major players have anything about the security announcement on their homepage. Maybe they've done that on purpose to prevent confusion and prevent people from panicking and so on, but they could at least give some basic advice, right? Some preventative advice, because you don't really want people, the users of Intel, Microsoft, and AMD products to hear it from a third-party source, right? Because that might make those three players look irresponsible. If they are proactive, it's the first habit from the 7 habits, remember, be proactive. If they're proactive in informing their users and then mitigating any kind of panic to say, nothing to worry about, this is what we're doing about it, this is what you can do about it, all the better, right? Most likely in Microsoft case, they'll just push a Windows update to deal with the security issue as far as they can in software. That'll do it in the short term perhaps. However, the problem, this actual security flaw, which we'll get into the detail of in a second, this is a fundamental flaw at the hardware level, right? At the most fundamental hardware level. So let me give you a practical example here. At this site I'm looking at, by the way, it's spectreattack.com. The two security exploits, they've got code names, right? Numbers and letters and so on. But for the benefit of everyone's understanding, this security issue is broken down into two specific exploits, one of which is called meltdown, because it melts down the security barriers in computer memory between programs. And Spectre is like a little ghosty, which is a harder exploit to exploit, but also harder to mitigate at the same time. So ordinarily, excuse me, one program running on your computer cannot access the information of another program. Like right now, I've got Chrome running, I've got Spotify running, I've got RoboForm running, I've got my VPN running, my antivirus, and they're all using computer memory, right? And I mean, you can even see this. If you in Windows, you can run the task manager. I don't know if this will show it on the screen share. No, it's not going to show it because it's an overlay. But if you right-click on your Windows taskbar and go to Task Manager, it'll show you all the programs that are running and how much memory they're using. And ordinarily, the memory is kind of ring-fenced, so each program has its own little garden of memory, and it can operate and graze. And you can't skip the fence and see what your neighbor is doing, if you know what I mean, in terms of programs. But this melts down those barriers, so one program could potentially have a look at the data from another program. So on the spectreattack.com site, they've embedded this YouTube video, which is 20 seconds long. So if I play it, it shows the meltdown exploit in action. So here, let's pause it real quick. Let's get rid of this overlay. So all this is hexadecimal. It's addresses in computer memory. So here's the address in computer memory down the left column, and then the contents of the memory here in hexadecimal numbers. This is encoded information. But what's happened down the right hand side here, this is the decoded version of what's in the computer's memory. And it's all just one long string of text and so on. But what an attacker could do here is potentially say, see that you executed the, I don't know, the Exodus wallet program and then typed in a bunch of letters and numbers, and they could logically then assume that is the password to your Exodus wallet. Similarly, if you typed in www.blockchain.info and then started typing stuff in, they could logically assume that that was the access details to your blockchain.info wallet. And there are simple examples, but there's much more wide-ranging implications for this. So if I let this run, you can see whatever's in this person's computer memory is being revealed. There's email addresses here, there's website links, there's information, God knows what else is flashing past here. But you can, it's just a demo to show you exactly how this exploit works and what an attacker would see. So that's that. Now CERT, which is C-E-R-T, here we go. I've got another site open here. This is the Computer Emergency Response Team at Carnegie Mellon University. And I'll put this link in the video description as well. This is their knowledge base on what they call vulnerability number 584653, CPU hardware vulnerability to side channel attacks. That's technically what they're calling it, but that's why we're going to refer to it as Meltdown and Spectre, because you know, if the mainstream media and so on are going to talk about it, we need a better name than VU 584653. Anyway, these folks suggest that the solution to this security problem is to actually replace your computer processor. That's what I've highlighted here. Under solution in green, it says replace CPU hardware. Can you believe that? It says the underlying vulnerability is primarily caused by CPU, central processing unit architecture design choices. Fully removing the vulnerability requires replacing vulnerable CPU hardware, which means taking the processor out of your motherboard and replacing it with one that isn't affected by the security flaw. Now, that also might mean you have to change your motherboard and change your memory, and all, those three major components have to be compatible with each other. So it might be in a new CPU, motherboard, and RAM memory in order to completely mitigate this problem. Because if you change the processor, you might then have to change your motherboard to a compatible one and change the memory also to be compatible. Now, to what though? Change the processor to what, you might ask? Well, apparently an AMD processor, it seems. Here's an update from AMD, which is Advanced Micro Devices. They make the Ryzen range of CPUs and the Threadripper range of CPUs. And they're a rival for Intel. They're the only real rival for Intel for desktop processors and so on. So they're suggesting in this update that they heard about the security issues and they've run a bunch of lab tests. And here we go. Down here it says what AMD's response is to the three exploits that actually Google Project Zero, which is one of the research teams, they've identified this Spectre and what's the one called? Meltdown exploits. And there is three specific technical exploits here. One called bounds check bypass, branch target injection, and rogue data cache loading. And then AMD have tested all these in the lab, and basically they've said that the first one, bounds check bypass, can be resolved simply by software. So an operating system update needs to be installed, and that's it, right? And they say that this update will have a negligible impact on the processor's performance. So that's the first one. This branch target injection, they basically say difference in the way that AMD processors are architected means there's a near zero chance of a AMD processor being exploited in the way described, right? And it says this second variant of the vulnerability has not been demonstrated on AMD processors so far. So that's number two. And then this rogue data cache loading, it says zero AMD vulnerability due to different architecture that AMD use when designing and building their CPUs. So the long and the short of it is that it looks like AMD processors are immune, largely immune to this exploit. So, my goodness me, does that mean we're going to all be replacing our Intel processors with AMD processors? Possibly. That's an immediate fix that would completely sidestep the security issue by the sounds of things, right? Now, the security flaws in the software can be more easily fixed via an update, as they just mentioned. If Microsoft can just push a Windows update, and that'll automatically install on all the Windows updates, all the Windows systems. Same with Mac. If they push a Mac OS update, that can sort out the software. However, it doesn't solve the hardware problem they're running on, does it? I mean, that's why we call it software. Soft as in it's moldable. So any software systems that are listed here under vendor information, you've got Linux, Microsoft, Mozilla, Google, and so on, and Apple. You can click on this affected link in the second column, and it will take you to specific announcements from each of these vendors and see what their suggestion is. I think Apple have already pushed an update to Mac OS that will patch it as far as they can, but that still doesn't remove the vulnerability in the Intel processor that may be running on that Mac computer. So no doubt, anything that can be handled by software will be handled by an update. However, the physical hardware is thus not as easily fixed. So hence the advice to replace the computer processor. So again, go to this list, check out the software and the hardware that you're running, see if it's affected, and then you can know what to do as a result of that. One thing I will say though, to make you feel better, is that there is something very specific that needs to happen in order for this security issue to be exploited. You kind of would have to download and run a malicious software program that was designed to exploit this issue, right? Most trusted software applications, they are highly unlikely to make an exploit of these security issues. So all those paid software programs I just talked about, like Spotify or RoboForm or Bitdefender, right? I have premium versions of all those. The VPN software that I run and whatever else I run, any software applications like Photoshop or Adobe Premiere and all those kinds of things. Because there's a software auditing process, they're highly unlikely to have those kinds of vulnerabilities. So if you weren't already, I suggest you become very, very, very strict on what you download from the internet. If you don't have a high degree of certainty about the trustworthiness of where you're downloading from, then don't do it, right? You must have a high degree of certainty that it's trustworthy before you download it. And as always, your failsafe is to store your crypto on a hardware wallet, because that way, even if you do make a mistake and you do run a malicious program, it can't steal your crypto anyway, right? And if you're really, really paranoid and you would like me to help work with you to ensure your crypto investments are as secure as they can possibly be, then you may want to come to my first ever crypto investing workshop live in London, which is going to be going on Saturday, the 10th of February 2013. So this is designed for a maximum of about a dozen people, because it truly is a workshop, meaning there's only a little bit of teaching and a lot of doing. So each lesson will start with me describing the task, and then everyone will actually carry out the task in the workshop with me there if you get stuck. So we'll repeat that process many times throughout the day until everyone can actually carry out every task in the workshop with me there and be able to do it before you walk out, right? And we will repeat that process step by step, so you've got everything you need to know to do crypto investing with confidence, right? You'll even get your own hardware wallet included in the tickets, right? I'll help you set it up. I'll help you back it up in the workshop. I'll even give you some free crypto to put in the hardware wallet before you leave, right? I'll show you where to find investment opportunities. I'll show you how to buy them. I'll show you how to take profit when you want to sell them, all that kind of stuff. And we'll actually do it all in the workshop. So by the end of the day, you won't just have learned a bunch of theoretical information in your head. You will have done each task at least once in each session throughout the day, so you'll know how to do it on your own when you leave, right? So I'm really looking for people who aren't much concerned about, what they walk out of the event knowing, but rather people who want to walk out of the event with the skill of doing. That's the real key difference between a workshop and a seminar, right? This is not a seminar, this is a workshop. So that's my promise to you. If by the end of the day you're not completely delighted, I'll give you money back. I'm that confident about this. So if you go through this workshop, then security issues like the one we've spoken about today will become those curiosities I talked about, rather than have any cause for panic, because you'll have that confidence that you made an investment in your skills and security. So a link to the workshop to book a ticket will be in the video description for today, so you can book a ticket and get one of those dozen places before it sells out. So there really is only a dozen places, remember, because I can only do this intensive work one-to-one with a very small group. It becomes impractical beyond a dozen or so people. So if you like what you hear there, head over to the page on the Dada Success Academy and get yourself a ticket before we sell out. Alrighty? Alright, thanks very much for joining me today, guys. If you like this episode, go ahead and hit that like button. And if you're new around here, get subscribed. And if you would like access to my very best material, such as my structured online courses that will teach you things like how to make and save money with Bitcoin, check out my website, cryptoversity.com. Click on courses and you can take any one of these online courses, which you can take for your educational delight. Also follow me on Steem, as I mentioned, at Marketing Monk, where you can make good comments and earn cryptocurrency for your best comments. If I upvote your comment, if it's a good comment, you'll earn some Steem cryptocurrency, which is better than just a simple comment on YouTube, which doesn't earn you anything. Alright guys, that's all for today. I'll be back tomorrow with another episode of the Cryptoverse. So until then, it's me, Chris Coney, saying bye for now.